Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
A very good evening to all our viewers. You've tuned into this special broadcast on money control. And just recently during Sam Altman's recent visit to India, he remember is the co-founder of OpenAI, which develops ChatGPT, and we know how much buzz there has been around ChatGPT. Now, when he was posed a question about what are the possibilities of Indian startups creating their own foundational artificial intelligence, he was quick to reply, saying that it will be explicitly and completely hopeless and that Indians should not even attempt to do so. Well, that kind of answer hasn't gone down too well, at least with our Indian tech companies, and we were quite quick to reply. We had the Tech Mahindra CEO respond to that via Twitter, saying that he's accepting the challenge, bring it on. But we also have Zoho, which is India's, among the first few startups that have said that they're going to be developing their own LLM when it comes to these things. So, but the main line here, the base line here is, are we really prepared to have our own Desi chat GPT? We've seen that being replicated when it comes to other apps. But is this the same for AI? And where are Indian startups really at this point when it comes to AI technology? Let's discuss all of that. Let's discuss AI in the scheme of other startup challenges that we are facing, like the funding winter and much more. Joining me for that today is Gaurav Singh, the founder of Verloop.io. Sorry, there's also Atul Rai, the CEO and founder of Staqu Technologies, as well as Anurag Ramdasan, the partner at 314 Investments. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for giving us your time and speaking with us. Let's break this down one by one, and I'll get each one's view on this. We know that ChatGPT is here, it has created that buzz, but has it created enough buzz that Indian startups that were already developing this kind of generative AI, have they then fallen on the back seat? Let me start with Atul first. Take this question. Do you think Indian startups are now in that influx because of the dominance of ChatGPT? Okay, I guess Atul is not able to hear that audio, but Anurag, you come in then, and then we'll get Atul's view as well.
No, sounds good. Happy to take it. So I think, look, there's two ways to look at the ecosystem itself, right? One is in terms of how well are the startups positioned to leverage ChatGPT and similar platforms and build something truly unique. And I think that is something that the Indian ecosystem has taken to very well and has been building quite a bit of innovative solutions. So we're very excited to see that happen. And the second aspect of that is, which was also discussed in the off-record conversation now, which is, can India produce these kind of foundational models on their own? And that is a more complicated challenge, requiring more investments, more time, larger gestation period. And I think we see a lot of that work also happen. We see in smaller pockets that kind of innovative work being done, but that's a, like I mentioned, that's a longer play. But on the former, yes, we see a lot of excitement. We see a lot of adoption of LLMs in the market today, and the ecosystem has really taken to it, in our opinion.
Right. Gaurav, would you come in and tell us, are there Indian startups that are equipped to actually come on and challenge in creating our own Desi chat GPT versions? Do we have that with us? Do we have the capabilities at this point?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. So, see, first thing that we need to agree on is that the way current LLMs and foundation models that are being, say, built as of today, whoever is building it, OpenAI building it, or Anthropic building it, they are extremely compute intensive, right, and very, very capex heavy. Like just today or yesterday came the news that ByteDance spent about $1 billion buying hardware from NVIDIA, while OpenAI had spent what, like a tenth of it. Yeah. So if you will take it into that specific frame and then think about the question which Sam was answering, I fully agree to what he said. Like 10, 20 or 50 million is not going to make a dent right? But what I have seen at least happening, and also Anurag said in pockets, is where there are a lot of Indian companies who are trying to challenge the way the models are built. And they are saying that there are different ways, and we also work on some of those, where we can build and innovate those models at a much cheaper cost, and running those models could be a lot less resource hungry as well. And that's where there is a massive potential. So I think the lack of that kind of funding, that 200 million for a angel round, is essentially helping a lot of Indian companies drive that kind of innovation. And that's where the potential will come up. Maybe we will not do the large language models the way they have been built today, but in a sufficiently long horizon of, say, 4, 5, 10 years, new models which are a lot cheaper to build, train, and run will emerge, and they will have a much larger potential because you can train them for specific niche as well, should you require.
Right now, you brought up this whole issue of funding, and yes, we are talking about that prolonged winter that we've seen, not just AI startups, but startups in general. But if you have to look at AI startups in India, just 28 deals that we've seen from Jan to May of 2023. That's like almost half of what we saw, and that boom of, when it was that rally that we saw in AI, or in those kind of startups that were seeing that kind of investment. So are we, how does one really stand out, or how do you justify that money when you already know you're in winter, that you're staring at that freeze? Anurag, maybe you might want to take this, because you yourself, your company has already put in, given two checks to two AI startups, I believe, so far in this year. So what are your checklists that you're looking at when these guys come forward?
Yeah, so on one side, I would still argue winter is a very subjective thing, right? I mean, we we've seen maybe funding drop by 50% this year compared to the peak of 2021, but 2021 saw more than 3.5 times compared to 2020. So I mean, net we still come out ahead, right? So it's not mad euphoria maybe, but investments have continued at a good pace in the Indian startup ecosystem. So I'd still use the word winter with a pinch of salt. Um, Outside of that, there's even last year for that matter, certain subsegments, be it B2B commerce or stuff like that. So some activity. This year we are seeing activity in AI. Now, obviously, even that comes with a bit of fraud. Some of these AI companies are potentially overvalued, but it is it is clearly obvious to all of us that some of the fundamentals will shift because of how platforms are built around AI, and a few of those companies will be worth backing, and that's what we are seeing happen in the ecosystem. Uh, I, I mean, obviously, I don't want to comment on some of the very, very larger outsized rounds that happen, but there are constantly new companies that continue to raise funds. And if you look at the math this year, it's not just AI companies that are raking in capital. There's funding happening across the sector, right? So I think AI is just getting in capital in that sense, and it's not. I wouldn't argue it's disproportionate to the funding winter, or it's getting overfunded, at least for now.
Right. So obviously there is this hype around it, and one aspect that has come to this fore has been this whole term of AI washing. Now, this is almost when firms, we're given to understand, are using AI, or at least the term AI, just to be attracting investors. Now, is this something that we're going to see? Because and they might not actually have those kind of deliverables. So is that a fear, and which is why investors are being picky? Let me take this to Gaurav.
Um, See, that's that's an important, interesting point, right? See, there is one which is just use the term for the heck of it, and then the other one is in which a lot of folks are just sitting on top of a foundational model and being a wrapper and calling it an AI, right? So, I think in the eventuality, what will happen is that a lot of these services will start mimicking more like AWS, where everyone has those baselines, and then the entire differentiation will come up in what niche data you have, what you have trained your models on, rather than what a foundational model provided. And yeah, probably there is still a bit of time where everyone is figuring out on how to differentiate between where there is no moat versus where there is data as a moat, or training which has been done which differentiates it, and that's leading to where we are right now. And see,
Right.
that's in a way also okay, because what had happened in 21 also was that everyone wanted to be a unicorn in 18 months. Now the focus is back on, can you build deep research companies? And that might take 6 years, 10 years, and that's okay, right? Everyone is slowly understanding that. And that's a good place to be, I'll say. That's a net positive.
Right. Anurag, would you agree then it's fine to be keeping OpenAI and ChatGPT as that base and building solutions, leveraging its capabilities, and Indian startups can take off from there?
No, definitely. I mean, that is the easiest way to build out a MVP, get to the market, and actually understand what is the inherent value the product brings to the table, right? I mean, it may not, to Gaurav's point, right? That part of the solution will become commoditized, and that's not going to be a long-term disruptor by any means. But at the same time, it doesn't, discard. Look at SaaS companies. Some SaaS companies tend to be more workflow driven, and that is where the differentiation is. And if AI makes a difference in that workflow, then that's good enough. But to Gaurav's point, they will be more application level companies, and they should be treated as such, and there is nothing wrong in that. But if companies intend to make AI a differentiator, then maybe being a wrapper is merely a starting point, and the actual work from there has to go on the research, on the model development aspect, and those journeys will become more clear as the ecosystem further evolves.
Right. Anurag, in fact, even that question to you as an investor, are you then wary of, the companies that are coming forward with this? There is no AI washing as such happening. How do you verify, or how do you know what would you want to put your money into then?
I mean, that's the core of our job to a certain extent, right? And it's not just about AI washing. We've this term emerged out of greenwashing, where for everyone claim to be a green tech or a ESG tech. We've seen similar things play out when there was a crypto cycle, etc., right? So this happens. This is a very common thing, and good investors know how to differentiate between what's real and what's not. And I don't think this behavior of washing with any label is sustainable in the long run.
Right. Gaurav, let me get your word or your understanding of what will be the other challenges that AI startups could face. Now, we do know this winter that everyone is dealing with in any case, but what are the other kind of technical challenges they could face if they want to create their own desi version of ChatGPT?
See, I'm not really too, like Anurag said, right, not super worried or will even call it a winter. The good part for a lot of AI, at least on the B2B side, is that if you are making a improvement in the performances and workflows of a business, the customers are willing to pay for it. And when you are getting the money, then you can sustain yourself. Maybe you will run fewer experiments, but that's okay. The bigger challenge that a lot of people will face and companies are facing is like, what's your differentiation? How are you different from yet another wrapper? If so, you can start at wrapper, but you will have to keep growing from there, and that can just be the starting point, like Anurag said, right? So that access to that niche data, on where do you get that differentiating data, which can then you use to train your models, which no one else has it, and you just don't need that huge amount of data. You also need that data to constantly be fresh, because freshness also plays a lot of importance in your responses being better than someone else's responses, right? So access to niche data, then building those models efficiently, cost efficiently, because if you will talk about Desi GPT or India market, it's also a very price sensitive market. So when you are building those deep tech, you can't blow through a couple of $1 million to train it, because then your ROIs will stop making sense. So coming up with the right ways to train the data, access to that data, and then running those models at a cost which makes sense is where a lot of differentiation and moats will be built. And then, I mean, there will be ecosystem around it which people will have to build. But yeah, that's where I'll place the bigger challenges
Right.
to be.
Right. Atul Rai is back with us. Atul, I hope you can hear me now. But I think what we are discussing is where Indian startups or where Indian AI startups really will find that niche or make their place when you compare them. Of course, there is the big investments that are needed, and which is why it's an important question to understand where do startups really figure in this picture, because you already have the bigger tech names, be it Wipro, TCS, or even Infosys. All of them are already focusing or making sure that they're focusing on AI, and that's what they're giving out to their clients. So, where do Indian startups then figure out if already the incumbents are taking that role ahead? So, how will the startups really find their place?
So, first of all, of course, I mean, when you talk about AI is not LLMs. Of course, LLMs are now becoming synonyms of AI, but this is not true,
Yeah.
right? Of course, what happened in the AI, we started in 15, and since then, I've seen that a lot of things got innovated in the AI. It started from the CNN, which is like convolutional neural network model, which was actually object detection or facial recognition kind of a tech. It started from that, and now it's basically trying to understand or generating the content which is more like a human kind of a thing, and that's where people are feeling a bit fear, because now you cannot differentiate whether it's an AI or it's a human, right? But let's go to the fundamental. If you talk about data, we have three different kind of a data: image, video, and text. Audio, and images, right? These are the fundamental AI. So far, you talk about ChatGPT is targeting the textual data, which is just 30% of the overall content on internet. And in that also, it is just targeting mostly the English or maybe some of the other languages, right? So of course, LLMs are good for the large data if you have, and that is where these companies or ChatGPT, Microsoft, Google, they have the, of course, their power, because they have that data pointers, right? But the way, I mean, it is being done while they're using transformer models, it can use only for the textual data. 70-80% data is there which is in form of audios and images, and that is where new AI models need to be created. That is one. So second part, whether someone can create a chat GPT kind of a tech in India or not, I think it can be done, but it is not the way they have created. They had huge data, at the same time they had a big transformer model which is capable of training on those data and learn from that. Maybe a new AI will come which can learn from a smaller data, a very basic model which do not need $1 million or $100 million kind of a funding. So, I mean, of course, when you want to reach on moon, you don't want to make the highest building more higher, right? So, in
Right.
that way, a re innovation will be happening. Maybe someone will use some new model, not the transformers, to create that kind of accuracy. So, I mean, in that way, we as a country have that capability because we have such a huge data. We are second largest country in the world with the data pointers, right? And with
Right.
our own manpower which we have in India, we can create those data which we can use to curate the AI models. Because in the long run, what will happen? Let's say you will see the whole internet having the content created by AI itself. And there is a fundamental research which says if you train an AI model with the AI data itself, it get confused. It will become, of course, useless and less accurate. So in that way, we also have that capability in the future where we have a large human liver over here in India, which can also create or teach our AI model to become more accurate. So, being an Indian company, we see there's a huge opportunity. That is one. Second, of course, the new models or new kind of a new age AI will come even more accurate, but with the limited data, and a lot of research papers already in the public domain, and people are trying. So, of course, I mean that is kind of a I can see that kind of a thing going to happen in the Indian AI research era, and that is
Right.
what happening currently.
Right. So Atul is quite optimistic. He's seeing the opportunities, and yes, of course, there are opportunities. Even Sam Altman came back to clarify that he was only talking when it comes to that kind of funding that is around it. But let me pose a question to Gaurav as well. Are Indian startups ready to take on these bigger challenges? Because if you already have your incumbents, if I have to call them a Google or Microsoft, all of them tying up with the other bigger tech majors here to be delivering these services. where will the Indian startups then who are into AI, where do they figure out in the scheme of things?
uh, I don't think incumbents will really pose a very big challenge, because you also have to understand that a lot of AI which is being built will pose the fundamental question on the viability of the incumbents business model as that is today. So there is someone who is going to build disruptive tech which probably can make engineers a lot more productive than what a services company offers as of today. Anyone, not specifically taking any names, or can make BPOs, KPOs more optimized, or can do any of the other tasks which each of these have been doing, right? Medical labeling and so on and so forth, which a lot of companies do. There is a massive space where startups can build. With all of this new intelligence coming in, and like Atul said, say multimodal models coming up, uh, a lot of existing business processes will get disrupted and will cease to exist the way they are, and more optimized workflows will come up. Those more optimized workflows, in my opinion, will be built by a new player rather than a player who is trying to guard their existing business. Existing businesses usually push for 20% efficiency, not more than that. A new player can come up and say, you know what, I mean, all you need is 10% of what you have been doing so far. And that's where the startups will come up and innovate, who will challenge how the things are being done as of today. Uh, there will be space for new product companies. There will be space for new services companies, because we like it or not, a lot of consulting will go into AI transformations for large businesses, which incumbents have perfected over years and years.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But a lot of product space comes up, like what we do as a business. We optimize customer support, and we call it a BPO 2.0, right? There will be more companies who will do it, and they will say, you don't need a BPO. You probably can do it with 1/10 of the workforce which you have. And that will happen across the life cycles of the workflows that large businesses run. And that's where the opportunities are.
Right. So then, should we, the bottom line then coming back to, should humans then be afraid, and is AI really going to take over our jobs and take our lives? I think that will be an unending question for now that we'll leave open ended to answer. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for giving us your time. Let me get in one last word, perhaps, from all the three of you. Anurag, any comments that you would like to take from this? Where are we seeing AI startups heading from here? What should they be looking forward to be putting out so that the world's eyes come to Indian AI startups?
No, I think the most exciting thing to see from here, looking forward in terms of AI startups, is how are the existing businesses, existing services, existing products evolving, right? I think AI will become a flavor in all the tech solutions that we see today. So how does that evolve these solutions? What do the next generation of audio apps, video apps, images apps, all of that look like? What do the next generation of SaaS look like? I think that's the most exciting thing to look forward to because of this AI revolution today.
Right. Atul, your last words, any comments on how you see more startups getting into this field?
So I'm very optimistic in Indian startups. I can see, I mean, when we started in 15, very few startups were writing research papers. And I've seen like a lot of papers are now, a lot of research papers are coming from the startup ecosystem. So I see, I mean, Indian ecosystem is getting more mature in the AI. And that is basically the power or that kind of a strength we are building. And I believe this could actually disrupt the whole international or global AI model, because we have the data. At the same time, we already also learn how to create IPs and how to create new AI models, and that is what I believe India will. That is where I believe India will lead this whole thing in near future, and I'm really optimistic for that.
Right. So I think we can end this chat on that optimistic note, because Sam Altman obviously didn't think that we were capable of it, but we do have those capabilities. It will take its time and efforts for it to actually come out and shine. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. Atul Rai, Anurag, as well as Gaurav, thank you so much for speaking with us here. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Shashi.
Thank you.